Welcome back to our channel, where real stories remind us that kindness and courage can come from the most unexpected places. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, because today's story is one that will leave you speechless. It's about a terrified little girl, a mother in danger, and a group of rough-looking bikers whose actions left an entire town in tears. It all started on a warm Saturday afternoon in a small town just outside of Reno, Nevada. The streets were alive with the sound of roaring engines as a local biker club known as the Hells Angels rolled into town. Most people stayed out of their way. Rumors about them were everywhere. Some said they were dangerous. Others whispered that they were outlaws. But that day, the truth about who they really were would finally be revealed. At a small diner on the corner of Main Street, a young mother named Claire sat quietly with her 6-year-old daughter, Emily. Claire was trying to smile, but it was clear something was wrong. Her husband, Rick, had always been a short-tempered man, but lately, his behavior had grown darker. He had lost his job, started drinking heavily, and his anger seemed to find its target in the woman who loved him most. Claire had planned to leave him that day. She had packed her things in secret and had come to the diner to meet her sister before heading to a shelter in another city. But before her sister could arrive, Rick showed up, angry, drunk, and out of control. Emily sat quietly, clutching her mother's hand as Rick stormed into the diner. The sound of the door slamming against the wall made everyone turn. Rick's eyes were wild, his fists clenched. He shouted Claire's name across the room, demanding that she come back home. She tried to calm him, telling him they could talk outside, but his rage was too strong. He grabbed her arm, yanking her so hard that she fell against the table. Plates shattered, coffee spilled, and the room went silent. Emily screamed, "Stop, please stop," but Rick didn't listen. In that moment, the terrified little girl broke free and ran out of the diner, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know where she was going. She just wanted to find someone, anyone, who could help her mama. Just down the street, the Hells Angels had parked their bikes outside a small gas station. The group of men, covered in tattoos and leather vests, were laughing, talking, and refueling their bikes for the long ride ahead. To anyone else, they might have looked intimidating, like men you wouldn't dare approach. But little Emily didn't think about that. She just saw people. She ran toward them, her small feet slapping against the pavement, her voice trembling as she cried, "Please help me. They're beating my mama." The laughter stopped instantly. The leader of the group, a big man with a gray beard named Hawk, looked down at the sobbing child. His smile faded. He knelt beside her, placing his massive hand gently on her shoulder. "Who's hurting your mama, sweetheart?" he asked softly. Through sobs, Emily explained that her daddy was hitting her mother inside the diner. Hawk's jaw tightened. He turned to his crew, his voice calm but cold. "Let's go." The engines roared to life, echoing through the street like thunder. Every head turned as a dozen Hells Angels bikers rode down Main Street and pulled up in front of the diner. The ground shook beneath their boots as they stepped off their bikes and walked inside. Rick froze when he saw them. His hand still gripped Claire's wrist, but suddenly, he wasn't so sure of himself. The biggest of the bikers, Hawk, stood directly in front of him, his eyes locked on Rick's. The entire diner went silent again, the only sound the ticking of the wall clock and the quiet sobbing of Claire. Hawk spoke in a low, steady voice. "Is there a reason you're putting your hands on a lady?" Rick tried to stammer out a reply, but before he could, another biker stepped forward. "We don't like men who hurt women," he said. "Why don't you let her go before this gets ugly?" Rick's pride flared. He puffed out his chest, muttering something about minding their own business. But when Hawk took one more step closer, his massive frame towering over him, Rick's bravado melted away. He released Claire's wrist and stumbled back. Hawk nodded toward one of his men. "Take her outside. Make sure she's okay." As two bikers gently helped Claire to her feet, Hawk turned back to Rick. You ever touch her again, he said, his voice low and even, you're gonna answer to us. The message was clear. Rick didn't argue. He grabbed his jacket and stormed out, cursing under his breath, but everyone could see the fear in his eyes. Outside, Emily ran to her mother, wrapping her tiny arms around her waist. Claire fell to her knees, crying, holding her daughter tightly. It's okay, baby, she whispered. It's over now. Hawk crouched down beside them. You did the right thing, kid, he said softly to Emily. You're brave. You saved your mama. The diner owner, who had been too afraid to intervene, came outside and offered the mother and daughter some water. The other bikers stood quietly nearby, their intimidating presence suddenly transformed into something protective and comforting. One of them took off his jacket and handed it to Claire to cover her trembling shoulders. Another walked over to Emily and handed her a small toy keychain from his bike. For courage, he said with a smile. Within minutes, police sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called 911, and officers arrived to take statements. Rick was picked up a few blocks away, still angry and drunk. The police took him into custody after hearing from witnesses. As the situation calmed down, one of the officers approached the bikers. You guys did a good thing, he said. Not everyone would have stepped in like that. Hawk shrugged. We just did what anyone should do, he replied. You see someone getting hurt, you help. The officers nodded and thanked them before leaving with Rick in the back of the patrol car. That evening, the story spread through town like wildfire. People couldn't stop talking about it. The same bikers everyone had whispered about as dangerous outlaws had just saved a woman and her little girl. The very group that many feared had become unexpected heroes. Claire and Emily were taken to a safe house that night, with the help of local authorities. The bikers followed behind to make sure they arrived safely. Before they left, Hawk handed Claire a slip of paper with a phone number on it. If you ever need help again, he said, you call us. Day or night. Tears filled Claire's eyes as she nodded. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know how to repay you. Hawk gave a small smile. You don't owe us anything, he said. Just keep that little girl safe. Weeks passed, and the story made its way to local newspapers. Reporters called it, the Angels of Main Street. The Hells Angels never asked for credit, never wanted fame. But what they did that day changed how people saw them forever. For years afterward, Claire kept in touch with the group. They checked in occasionally, especially around Emily's birthday. On her 7th birthday, Emily received a small box in the mail. Inside was a tiny silver angel pendant and a note that said, "For the bravest girl we ever met, from your guardian angels." As time went on, Claire built a new life. She found a job, got therapy, and raised Emily in peace. But neither of them ever forgot that day, the day a group of men the world misunderstood showed what real strength looks like. Sometimes, it's not the suit and tie heroes or the badges that protect us. Sometimes, it's the people the world judges, the ones who've walked through darkness and still choose to do what's right. Years later, when Emily was a teenager, she stood in front of her class for a school project about heroes. She told her classmates the story of that day. Some didn't believe her at first. A biker gang saving a child's mother sounded like something out of a movie. But when she showed them the little silver angel pendant she still wore around her neck, they listened in silence. She finished her presentation with words that echoed through the classroom. Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they wear leather. That day, the class stood up and clapped. Even her teacher